The sound of the opening guitar riff hit Maya Carter like electricity, and before she could stop herself, she grabbed the arm of the man standing next to her in the crowd and shouted over the music, "This is my favorite song." The stranger turned toward her, his dark eyes catching the stage lights, and a slow smile spread across his face as the band launched into the chorus. He did not pull away from her grip, and Maya suddenly realized she had just accosted a complete stranger at a concert, like an overeager teenager. Heat flooded her cheeks, but the man simply leaned closer so she could hear him over the pounding drums. "Mine too," he said, his voice warm and rich even through the noise. Maya released his arm, laughing at herself, at the absurdity of the moment, at the pure joy flooding through her veins as the music swelled around them. She had saved for months to afford this ticket, worked double shifts at the bakery where she decorated cakes and managed the morning rush. The band was Crimson Atlas, an indie rock group that had soundtracked her entire college years and continued to be her refuge during hard days. This song, Ember and Ash, had gotten her through her breakup 2 years ago, through her father's illness, through every moment when she felt like giving up. The stranger was still watching her, and Maya felt suddenly self-conscious in her vintage band shirt and jeans, her curly hair pulled back in a messy bun. He was tall, probably 6'2", with dark hair that fell just slightly over his forehead and a jawline that could cut glass. He wore a simple black shirt and jeans, but something about the way he carried himself suggested confidence, the kind that came from succeeding at life in ways Maya was still figuring out. "Sorry for grabbing you," she said, still smiling. "I get excited." "Don't apologize," he replied, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "Enthusiasm is underrated." They stood there for a moment, two strangers in a sea of thousands, connected by nothing more than a song and a spontaneous confession. Then the music shifted into the bridge, and Maya turned back to the stage, losing herself in the performance. She sang along to every word, her voice joining the chorus of fans around her, and she felt the stranger's presence beside her like a steady warmth. When the song ended, she glanced at him again. "I'm Maya." "Julian," he said, extending his hand. His grip was firm, his palm warm against hers. "Nice to meet you, Julian. Thanks for not thinking I'm completely insane." "The night is young," he teased, and she laughed, surprised by how easy it felt to talk to him. The concert continued, and Maya found herself hyper-aware of Julian beside her. Between songs, they talked, their words rushed and fragmented but genuine. He told her he had been following Crimson Atlas since their first album dropped 7 years ago. She told him about discovering them during a particularly difficult finals week, how their music had become the soundtrack to her life. He had a way of listening that made her feel heard, really heard, not just waiting for his turn to speak. "What do you do?" Julian asked during a lull between songs. "I work at a bakery," Maya said. "Sweet Traditions, over on Maple Street. I decorate cakes and help run the place. What about you?" "I work in manufacturing," Julian said, which felt oddly vague, but Maya did not press. Not everyone wanted to talk about work at a concert. As the show went on, they fell into an easy rhythm, commenting on the setlist, sharing favorite lyrics, and simply enjoying the music together. Maya could not remember the last time she had felt this comfortable with someone new. After her ex, Marcus, had cheated on her with a coworker, she had built walls around herself, focusing on work and her small circle of friends. Dating felt like too much effort, too much risk for not enough reward. But this, whatever this was, felt different. There was no pressure, no expectation. Just two people who loved the same music, standing in the same crowd, sharing the same moment. When the band played their final encore, Maya felt a pang of disappointment. The concert was ending, and with it, this strange, wonderful connection with Julian. As the lights came up and the crowd began to disperse, she turned to him, suddenly unsure of what to say. "This was really fun," she managed, tucking a stray curl behind her ear. "It was," Julian agreed, and there was something in his expression that made her heart skip. "Can I walk you out?" They made their way through the venue together, navigating the crush of bodies and the post-concert energy that hummed in the air. Outside, the November night was crisp and clear, the city lights glittering against the dark sky. Maya pulled her jacket tighter around herself, the adrenaline from the concert beginning to fade. "Where are you parked?" Julian asked. "I took the train," Maya admitted. "Parking downtown is a nightmare." "Let me give you a ride home," he offered immediately. Maya hesitated. Her mother's voice echoed in her head, warning her about getting into cars with strangers. But Julian did not feel like a stranger, not really. Still, caution won out. "That's really nice, but I'll be fine on the train," she said. Julian nodded, not pushing. "Can I at least walk you to the station?" "Sure," Maya agreed, relieved that he understood boundaries. They walked through the city streets, past restaurants still serving late dinners and bars filled with Friday night crowds. Maya told him about growing up in the suburbs, about her two younger brothers who constantly raided her vinyl collection. Julian talked about his love of live music, how he tried to catch shows whenever he could. "Do you collect vinyl?" he asked suddenly. "I do," Maya said, her face lighting up. "I know it's kind of pretentious, but there's something about the sound quality, you know, and the album art, the whole experience of it." "Not pretentious at all," Julian said. "Do you have Crimson Atlas on vinyl?" Maya's expression fell slightly. "No, actually. Their early albums are pretty hard to find, and when they do show up, they're expensive. I've been saving up for the self-titled album, but it keeps getting pushed down the priority list when real life happens." "The self-titled is incredible on vinyl," Julian said. "Ember and Ash sounds even better." "Don't tempt me," Maya groaned. "I'm trying to be responsible with money." They reached the train station too quickly, and Maya found herself wishing the walk had been longer. Julian waited with her on the platform, his hands in his pockets, looking like he belonged in a magazine spread rather than a dingy subway station. "I'm really glad you grabbed my arm tonight," he said as the rumble of an approaching train echoed through the tunnel. Maya smiled. "I'm glad you didn't call security. Can I see you again?" The question came out direct, honest, and Maya felt her heart race. "I'd like that," she said softly. They exchanged numbers quickly as the train pulled into the station. Julian held the door for her as she stepped inside, and through the scratched window, she watched him standing on the platform until the train pulled away. Maya sat down, her phone clutched in her hand, a smile playing on her lips. She felt like a character in one of those romantic comedies her best friend Jen was always trying to get her to watch. Things like this did not happen to her. She did not meet charming men at concerts. She did not have instant connections with strangers. Her phone buzzed before she even made it home. "Julian, made it onto the train okay, Maya?" "Yes, and no one has tried to murder me yet, so I'd call it a success." "Julian, the night is young." "Maya, you keep saying that." "Julian, maybe I'm hoping it's true." She stared at the message, her stomach flipping. Was this flirting? This felt like flirting. "Maya, are you always this smooth?" "Julian, only when I meet someone who grabs my arm and yells about their favorite song." "Maya, I'm never going to live that down, am I, Julian? Not a chance." When Maya finally got home to her small apartment in a converted brownstone, she was still smiling. Her roommate, Jen, looked up from the couch where she was binge-watching a crime documentary. "You're glowing," Jen said immediately, pausing her show. "What happened?" Maya flopped down beside her, pulling a throw pillow into her lap. "I think I just met someone. At the concert." "Tell me everything." Maya recounted the entire evening, from her spontaneous confession to the walk to the train station. Jen listened with wide eyes, occasionally gasping or commenting. "And he asked for your number," Jen demanded. "And I gave it to him," Maya confirmed. "Maya Carter, is this actually happening? Are you actually going to date someone?" "I don't know if it's dating," Maya protested. "We just met. He walked you to the train station. He texted you to make sure you were safe. This is dating behavior." Maya bit her lip, trying not to get ahead of herself. "We'll see." Over the next week, Maya and Julian texted constantly. Good morning messages turned into long conversations about everything and nothing. He asked about her day at the bakery, and she asked about his work, which he still kept somewhat vague, mentioning meetings and production schedules, but never getting too specific. Maya assumed he was being modest or maybe just not that interested in talking about work, which she understood completely. They made plans to meet for coffee on Wednesday evening, and Maya spent an embarrassing amount of time choosing an outfit. She settled on a burgundy sweater and black jeans, her hair down in loose curls, minimal makeup, because she had never been good at the smoky eye thing her friends made look effortless. The coffee shop Julian had suggested was a cozy place in the arts district, all exposed brick and local artwork on the walls. Maya arrived first, her nerves making her 15 minutes early. She ordered a vanilla latte and claimed a table by the window, watching people pass by on the street. When Julian walked in, her breath caught. He looked just as good as she remembered, maybe better in the soft afternoon light. He spotted her immediately, his face breaking into that smile that made her stomach flip. "Hey," he said, sliding into the seat across from her. "You look beautiful." "You clean up nice yourself," Maya said, then mentally kicked herself for such an awkward response. But Julian just laughed, easy and genuine. He ordered a black coffee, and when he returned to the table, the conversation flowed as naturally as it had at the concert. They talked about music, about their favorite books, about the best pizza in the city, and whether pineapple belonged on it. "Absolutely not," Maya insisted. "That's a crime against pizza." "You're wrong, and I can prove it," Julian countered. "There's a place near my office that makes a Hawaiian pizza that will change your life." I remain unconvinced. "Then I'll have to take you there," he said, and the way he looked at her made it clear this was a second date invitation. "Maybe," Maya said, trying to play it cool even though her heart was racing. They stayed at the coffee shop for 3 hours, long enough that they both ordered second drinks, and the staff started giving them looks. Julian was easy to talk to, genuinely interested in what she had to say, and funny in a dry way that caught her off guard. He told her about growing up with a single mom who worked 2 jobs to keep him in good schools, about learning the value of hard work early. "She sounds amazing," Maya said. "She is." She's retired now, living in Florida and terrorizing her book club with strong opinions about mystery novels. "Do you visit her often?" "As often as I can." "She keeps threatening to move back up north, says she misses the seasons, but I think she just misses meddling in my life." Maya laughed. "Moms are good at that. What about your family?" Julian asked. Maya told him about her parents, both teachers, still happily married after 30 years. Her brothers, one in medical school and one finishing his undergraduate degree in engineering. "They're all overachievers," she said. "And then there's me, the artsy one who decorates cakes." "You say that like it's not impressive," Julian said, his tone serious. "Creating something beautiful that also brings people joy, that's a gift." Maya felt warmth spread through her chest. Marcus had always made subtle comments about her job, suggesting she could do more, be more. Hearing Julian's genuine appreciation meant more than she could express. "Thank you," she said softly. When they finally left the coffee shop, the sun had already set. Julian walked her back to the train station again, and this time, Maya wished even more desperately that the walk could last longer. "I had a really great time," Julian said as they reached the platform. "Me too," Maya agreed. "Friday," Julian said. "Pizza. Let me prove you wrong about pineapple." "You're very confident in this pizza," Maya teased. "I'm confident in a lot of things," he said, and the way he looked at her made her knees weak. "Okay," she agreed. "Friday." He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away, and pressed a gentle kiss to her cheek. Maya felt like she was floating as she rode the train home. Friday's date was even better. The pizza place was a small, family-run restaurant with checkered tablecloths and framed photos of Italy on the walls. Julian had been right. The Hawaiian pizza was incredible, though Maya refused to admit it outright. "I see you eating that third slice," Julian pointed out. "I'm just being polite," Maya said, her eyes dancing with amusement. "Sure you are." They shared a tiramisu for dessert, and Julian told her about his work, opening up more than he had before. He worked for a manufacturing company, he explained, and had worked his way up over the years. Maya appreciated his humility, the way he did not brag about his success, but spoke about his work with quiet pride. After dinner, they walked along the river, the city lights reflecting off the dark water. Julian took her hand, and Maya laced her fingers through his, feeling perfectly content. They talked about their dreams, their fears, the things they wanted from life. "I want to open my own bakery someday," Maya admitted. "Not just work at one, but actually own it. Create a space that feels warm and welcoming, where people celebrate their best moments." "You'll do it," Julian said with such certainty that Maya almost believed him. "What about you?" she asked. "What do you want?" Julian was quiet for a moment. "I want balance," he said finally. "I've spent a lot of years focused on work, on building and achieving. I want someone to share it all with. I want Sunday mornings and inside jokes, and someone who grabs strangers at concerts because a song moves them." Maya's heart hammered in her chest. "That's specific." "I've been thinking about it a lot this week," he admitted, stopping to face her. "About you." "I've been thinking about you too," Maya whispered. Julian cupped her face gently, his thumb brushing her cheek, and then he kissed her. Really kissed her, soft and sweet and perfect. Maya felt the world tilt, felt everything click into place like a song hitting the right note. They dated through November and into December, falling into an easy rhythm. Julian came to the bakery on his lunch breaks, and Maya teased him about his weakness for her chocolate croissants. She met his friends, a tight-knit group of guys he had known for years, and they welcomed her warmly. Julian met Jen, who gave Maya an enthusiastic thumbs up when he went to the bathroom. Everything felt right in a way Maya had not experienced before. Julian was thoughtful, remembering small details she mentioned in passing. When she complained about the cold, he showed up the next day with a scarf in her favorite color. When she had a rough day dealing with a difficult customer, he brought takeout and let her vent. But there was something Julian was not telling her. Maya could sense it. Small things that did not quite add up. The way he was vague about his work, the expensive watch he wore. The fact that his apartment, which she had not seen yet, was in one of the most exclusive buildings downtown. 3 weeks into dating, Maya finally asked. They were at her apartment, curled up on the couch watching a movie, and she could not shake the feeling any longer. "Julian, what exactly do you do?" she asked, pausing the movie. He tensed slightly. "I told you I work in manufacturing." "I know, but you're always vague about it. Are you secretly a spy or something?" Julian laughed, but it sounded forced. "Not a spy." "Then what?" Maya sat up, facing him. "I feel like you're hiding something." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I'm not hiding anything, I just did not want it to change things between us." "What are you talking about?" Julian met her eyes. "I own the company, Maya, Sterling Manufacturing. I'm not just an employee, I'm the CEO." Maya stared at him. Sterling Manufacturing was huge, a multinational company that produced industrial equipment. She had seen their name on buildings in the news. "You're a millionaire." "Yes," Julian said quietly. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because people treat me differently when they know. They see the money, not me." "And you grabbed my arm at a concert and yelled about your favorite song without knowing who I was or what I was worth. You liked me, just me. I did not want to lose that." Maya processed this, her mind reeling. "I wouldn't have treated you differently." "You say that, but people do, trust me." She stood up, needing space to think. Julian was a millionaire, a CEO. Someone who lived in a completely different world than she did. "This is a lot." "I know," Julian said, standing as well. "And I'm sorry I wasn't upfront from the beginning." "But Maya, everything between us, it's real. The money doesn't change how I feel about you." "How do you feel about me?" she asked, her voice small. Julian crossed to her, taking her hands. "I'm falling in love with you. I have been since you grabbed my arm at that concert." Maya's breath caught. "Julian." "You don't have to say it back," he said quickly. "I just needed you to know. The money, the company, all of it means nothing compared to what I feel when I'm with you." Maya looked up at him, at this man who had been nothing but kind and genuine with her. Yes, he had kept this secret, but she understood why. In a strange way, she might have done the same thing. "I'm falling in love with you too," she admitted. "And you're right, the money doesn't change that. But you have to promise me no more secrets." "No more secrets," Julian agreed, pulling her into his arms. They stood there, holding each other, and Maya felt the rightness of it settle over her like a warm blanket. The revelation about Julian's wealth took some adjusting. He showed her his apartment the following week, a stunning penthouse with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Maya tried not to gawk at the expensive furniture and the artwork that probably cost more than her yearly salary. "It's just a place," Julian said, watching her take it in. "It's a palace," Maya corrected, walking to the windows. The view was breathtaking. "Do you want the tour?" He showed her around, pointing out the custom kitchen he rarely used, the home office where he worked late nights, the master bedroom with its ridiculous king-sized bed. But what caught Maya's attention was the spare room he had converted into a music room. Guitars lined one wall, and in the corner sat a vintage record player with shelves of vinyl records. "You collect vinyl," Maya said, her eyes lighting up. "I told you I appreciated good music," Julian said, coming to stand beside her. Maya browsed his collection, impressed by the range and quality. He had everything from classic rock to modern indie, jazz to hip-hop. And there, tucked between other albums, she spotted it. The self-titled Crimson Atlas album, the one with Ember and Ash on it. She pulled it out carefully, holding it like the treasure it was. This is the one I've been wanting." "I know," Julian said softly. "How did you—" She trailed off, remembering their conversation at the concert. "You said it was your favorite song," he said. "And you said this album was hard to find." Maya looked at him, at the gentle expression on his face. "Can we listen to it?" Julian took the record from her, setting it on the turntable with practiced ease. The opening notes of Ember and Ash filled the room, richer and warmer than any digital version. Maya closed her eyes, letting the music wash over her. When Julian's arms wrapped around her from behind, she leaned back into him, perfectly content. They swayed together as the song played, and Maya thought about how far they had come from that concert. How a spontaneous moment had led to this, to falling in love with someone who understood her in ways she had not known she needed. When the song ended, Maya turned in his arms. "Thank you for sharing this with me." "Always," Julian promised. As December wore on, they grew closer. Julian invited her to his company's holiday party, and Maya stressed for days about what to wear. Jen helped her shop for a dress, a deep green number that hugged her curves and made her feel elegant. The party was at a 5-star hotel, complete with champagne fountains and a live orchestra. Maya felt out of her depth immediately, surrounded by wealthy executives and their equally polished partners. But Julian never left her side, introducing her proudly as his girlfriend, making sure she felt included in every conversation. "Everyone seems nice," Maya said during a quiet moment. "They are," Julian agreed, "but I'm ready to leave whenever you are. We just got here. I know, but I'd rather be alone with you." They stayed for another hour, dancing to the orchestra and sampling the elaborate dessert spread. Maya met Julian's business partner, Michael, a friendly man in his 50s who spoke highly of Julian's leadership and vision. She met his executive assistant, Diane, who whispered that she had never seen Julian this happy. On the drive home, Maya slipped off her heels, her feet aching. That was like stepping into a movie. "A good movie or a bad one?" Julian asked, glancing over at her. "Good," Maya decided. "Intimidating, but good." "You were perfect," Julian said, reaching for her hand. "I didn't know which fork to use for half the meal." "No one cares about the forks, Maya," she laughed, squeezing his hand. "Your world is very different from mine." "Our world now," Julian corrected gently. The words settled over her, both thrilling and terrifying. Could she really be part of his world? She was a baker who rented a small apartment and saved up for vinyl records. He was a millionaire who hosted parties at 5-star hotels. But when she looked at him, at the way he smiled at her like she was the most important person in his universe, the differences felt less significant. Christmas approached, and Maya stressed about what to get Julian. What did you buy for a man who could afford anything? She finally settled on something personal, spending weeks on a project that utilized her artistic skills. On Christmas Eve, they exchanged gifts at her apartment. She had decorated a small tree and made hot chocolate with homemade marshmallows. Julian gave her a beautiful leather journal with her initials embossed on the cover. "For your bakery plans," he explained, "to write down ideas, recipes, whatever you need." Maya hugged it to her chest, touched by the thoughtfulness. Then she handed him a wrapped package, suddenly nervous. "It's not much." Julian unwrapped it carefully, his expression shifting to wonder as he revealed a framed piece of art. Maya had created a mixed-media piece, incorporating the lyrics to Ember and Ash, painting around the words in watercolors that captured the essence of the song. In the corner, barely visible, she had included a small image of two figures at a concert, their hands almost touching. Maya, Julian breathed, his voice thick with emotion. This is incredible. You like it? I love it, he said, setting it down carefully before pulling her into his arms. I love you. I love you too, Maya whispered against his chest. They spent Christmas Day with her family, and Maya watched nervously as her parents and brothers met Julian. But her mom fell in love with him immediately when he complimented her cooking and offered to help with dishes. Her dad engaged him in a lengthy discussion about vintage cars, one of Julian's unexpected passions. Her brothers grilled him good-naturedly, testing whether he was worthy of their sister. He's a keeper, her mom whispered to Maya in the kitchen. I know, Maya said, watching Julian laugh at something her dad said. New Year's Eve was quiet, just the two of them at Julian's apartment. They cooked dinner together, though Maya did most of the actual cooking while Julian chopped vegetables and provided entertainment. They watched the countdown on TV, kissing as the clock struck midnight, and Maya felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be. In January, Maya started seriously planning for her bakery. She had been saving for years, but it was not enough for a down payment on a property and startup costs. Julian offered to help financially, but Maya refused. I need to do this myself, she insisted. Why? Julian asked, not pushing but genuinely curious. Because it's my dream. If you fund it, it becomes something you gave me, not something I earned. Julian respected that, but he helped in other ways. He connected her with a friend who was a real estate agent, someone who could help her find the right location. He reviewed her business plan, offering insights from his own entrepreneurial experience. He supported her without overtaking, and Maya appreciated that more than she could say. In February, everything changed. Maya was at work putting the finishing touches on a wedding cake when her phone rang. It was Julian, his voice strained. Can you come to my office? Now. I'm in the middle of a cake. Please, Maya, it's important. The urgency in his voice worried her. She finished the cake quickly, told her boss she had an emergency, and took a cab to Sterling Manufacturing's headquarters. The building was impressive, all glass and steel, and Maya felt small walking through the massive lobby. Julian's assistant met her and brought her up to the executive floor. Julian was in his office, pacing, still in his suit but looking disheveled in a way she had never seen. What's wrong? Maya asked immediately. Julian handed her a tabloid. On the cover was a photo of them from the holiday party, Maya in her green dress, Julian's arm around her. The headline read, Manufacturing Mogul's Mystery Woman. Who is she? Maya stared at it, her stomach sinking. Where did this come from? It's been circulating online. Someone at the party must have sold the photo, Julian said, running his hand through his hair. Maya, I'm so sorry. I should have warned you this might happen. Warned me that dating you would make me tabloid fodder. Yes, he said bluntly. I'm in the public eye more than I realized. This is going to be uncomfortable for a while. Maya sat down heavily. She had not considered this aspect of Julian's wealth and status. The scrutiny, the invasion of privacy. What do we do? We ignore it, Julian said, kneeling in front of her. We live our lives and let them speculate. Eventually, they'll move on to someone else. This is insane, Maya said, but she was not angry, just overwhelmed. I know, and if it's too much, if you want to take a step back, I understand. Maya looked at him, at the worry in his eyes, the fear that she might walk away. I'm not going anywhere, she said firmly, but maybe warn me next time before I become a tabloid headline. Julian laughed, relief evident. Deal. The media attention died down after a few weeks, but it left Maya unsettled. She had not signed up for public scrutiny, for strangers commenting on her appearance and speculating about her relationship. But she loved Julian, and this was part of his life. She would adapt. In March, Maya found the perfect location for her bakery. It was a small storefront in a trendy neighborhood, with big windows and good foot traffic. The rent was steep but manageable, and the space had good bones. She put in an application, crossing her fingers that it would work out. 2 weeks later, she got the call. The property was hers if she wanted it. Maya screamed so loudly that Jen came running from her room, thinking something was wrong. When Maya explained, they jumped around the apartment like teenagers. "This is happening," Maya kept saying. "This is actually happening." She told Julian that night over dinner, and he swept her into his arms, spinning her around. "I'm so proud of you." "I haven't even opened yet," Maya laughed. "But you will, and you'll be amazing." The next months were a whirlwind of permits, renovations, and equipment purchases. Maya worked at Sweet Traditions during the day and planned her bakery at night. Julian helped when she let him, painting walls and assembling shelves. He never complained, never made her feel like her dream was too small or insignificant compared to his empire. In May, Maya opened Sweet Maya's with a soft launch for friends and family. The space was everything she had envisioned, warm and inviting with soft yellow walls and vintage touches. Her signature cakes were displayed in a glass case, and the smell of fresh bread filled the air. Julian showed up with an enormous bouquet of flowers and the biggest smile she had ever seen. "Congratulations, Maya." She kissed him in front of everyone, too happy to be self-conscious. This was her dream realized, and having him there to share it made it perfect. The bakery was successful from the start, thanks to Maya's talent and reputation. Word spread quickly, and soon she had more orders than she could handle. She hired an assistant, then two, building a small team that shared her vision. Through it all, Julian was her biggest supporter. He came by every morning for coffee and a pastry, charming her customers and making her laugh. He bragged about her to anyone who would listen, showing off photos of her cakes like a proud partner. In July, on the anniversary of the concert where they met, Julian took Maya back to the same venue. Crimson Atlas was playing again, a summer tour stop, and Julian had gotten tickets. "I can't believe it's been a year," Maya said as they stood in almost the same spot where they had met. "Best year of my life," Julian said, pulling her close. The band played, and when they started Ember and Ash, Maya felt tears prick her eyes. A year ago, she had grabbed a stranger's arm and changed her life forever. She had found love, pursued her dreams, and built a future she had not known she could have. As the song swelled around them, Julian turned to her. "I have something for you." He handed her a wrapped package, flat and square. Maya unwrapped it carefully, and her breath caught. It was the Crimson Atlas vinyl, the self-titled album with Ember and Ash. "Julian, this is the one from your collection," she protested. "No," he said softly. "After that night at the concert, after you told me it was your favorite song, I went looking for a copy for you. I found one the next day. I've been holding on to it, waiting for the right moment." Maya stared at the record in her hands, overwhelmed. "You bought this for me a year ago." "The day after we met," Julian confirmed. "I knew even then that you were special. I wanted you to have it." "Why didn't you give it to me sooner?" "Because I was waiting for this moment, for the anniversary of the night we met. I wanted it to be special." Maya carefully set down the record and threw her arms around him. "I love you so much." "I love you too," Julian said, holding her tight as the music played around them. When they got back to Julian's apartment that night, Maya placed the record on the turntable. As Ember and Ash filled the room, Julian dropped to one knee. Maya's hands flew to her mouth, her heart stopping. "Maya Carter," Julian began, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. "A year ago, you grabbed my arm at a concert and told me your favorite song was playing. In that moment, my entire life changed. You've shown me what it means to pursue your dreams with passion, to love without reservation, to find joy in the simple moments. You make me want to be better, to do more, to live fully. I want to spend the rest of my life making you as happy as you make me. Will you marry me?" He opened a velvet box, revealing a stunning ring, a simple diamond that caught the light beautifully. "Yes," Maya sobbed, nodding frantically. "Yes, yes, yes." Julian slipped the ring onto her finger and stood, kissing her as she cried happy tears. The song played on, their song, the one that had brought them together and would be part of their story forever. They were married in November, a small ceremony with close friends and family. Maya wore a simple white dress, and Julian could not stop smiling. They exchanged vows they had written themselves, promising to support each other's dreams, to communicate openly, to choose love every single day. The reception was at the same hotel where they had attended Julian's holiday party, but this time, Maya felt completely at home. They danced to Ember and Ash as their first dance, and there was not a dry eye in the room. "This is my favorite song," Maya whispered to Julian as they swayed together. "Mine too," he replied, just as he had a year ago in a crowded concert venue. After the wedding, they honeymooned in Italy, eating incredible food and exploring small towns. Julian had insisted on handling all the arrangements, and Maya had let him, enjoying the chance to be pampered. They talked about the future, about the life they wanted to build together. "I want kids," Maya admitted one evening as they sat on a terrace overlooking the Amalfi Coast. "How many?" Julian asked, his hand covering hers. "2, maybe 3. I grew up with siblings and I loved it." "Then we'll have 2 or 3, Julian said simply. "You make it sound easy. With you, everything is easy." When they returned from their honeymoon, they started house hunting. Julian's apartment was too small for the family they wanted to build, and Maya's apartment was just a rental. They found a beautiful home in a family-friendly neighborhood, with a big backyard and a kitchen that made Maya's heart sing. Julian insisted on including a music room, complete with a record player and expanding vinyl collection. Sweet, Maya's continued to thrive, and Maya opened a second location after 2 years. Julian supported her expansion, offering business advice when she asked, but never pushing. He understood her need for independence, her desire to succeed on her own merits. They had their first child, a daughter named Emma, 3 years after they married. Julian was smitten from the first moment, staying up for night feedings and changing diapers without complaint. Maya watched him rock their daughter to sleep, singing softly, and fell in love with him all over again. 2 years later, they welcomed a son, James. Their family felt complete, their home filled with laughter and chaos and love. Julian cut back on his hours at Sterling Manufacturing, promoting trusted executives and focusing on being present for his family. Maya did the same, hiring a manager for her bakeries so she could spend more time with her children. On their 5th wedding anniversary, they recreated their first date, having coffee at the same shop where they had talked for 3 hours. Emma and James were with Julian's mom for the weekend, giving them rare alone time. "Do you ever think about that night at the concert?" Maya asked, stirring her latte. "All the time," Julian said. "I think about how close I came to not going. I almost stayed home that night." "What made you go?" I don't know, fate, luck, the universe conspiring to bring us together. I like that, Maya said. The universe conspiring. You grabbed my arm and changed my life, Julian said, reaching across the table for her hand. Best decision you ever made. Second best, Maya corrected. Saying yes to your proposal was the best. They spent the evening reminiscing, laughing about the early days when everything was new and uncertain. They talked about their children, about Emma's love of drawing and James's obsession with trucks. They made plans for the future, for vacations and date nights, and continuing to build the life they had created. When they got home, Maya pulled out the vinyl Julian had given her on their first anniversary. They had listened to it countless times, but it never got old. As Ember and Ash played, they danced in their living room, just the two of them. This is my favorite song, Maya said, just as she had at the concert all those years ago. Mine too, Julian replied, pulling her closer. Years passed in a beautiful blur. Emma and James grew, discovering their own passions and personalities. Sweet Maya's expanded to 5 locations, becoming a beloved local chain known for quality and creativity. Sterling Manufacturing continued to thrive under Julian's leadership, though he maintained his commitment to work-life balance. Julian and Maya made it a tradition to attend a Crimson Atlas concert every year on the anniversary of the night they met. Sometimes they brought the kids, introducing them to the music that had brought their parents together. Sometimes it was just the two of them, reliving that first perfect moment. On their 10th anniversary, Crimson Atlas released a special edition vinyl box set of their complete discography. Julian surprised Maya with it, and she cried when she opened it, remembering the girl who had saved up for months just to afford one album. I never could have imagined this life, she told Julian as they looked through the collection. What part? He asked. All of it. The bakeries, the kids, you. I thought I'd be lucky to scrape together enough for a down payment on a business. Instead, I have everything I ever wanted and things I didn't know to want. You did this, Maya. You built your dream. We built it, she corrected. Together. Julian kissed her forehead. Together. As Emma and James got older, they loved hearing the story of how their parents met. Maya would tell them about grabbing a stranger's arm at a concert, and Julian would add details she forgot, like how her eyes had lit up when the song started, or how beautiful she had looked even in the chaotic crowd. And then Daddy bought you the record, Emma would ask, even though she knew the story by heart. Not right away, Maya would explain. He waited a whole year to give it to me. That's so romantic, Emma would sigh, already a dreamer like her mother. James, more practical like his father, would ask, but why did you grab him? Wasn't that weird? Sometimes you have to take a chance, Maya would say. Sometimes the weird thing is exactly the right thing. On their 15th anniversary, Julian planned an elaborate surprise. He had been secretive for weeks, and Maya had tried unsuccessfully to get information from him. On the night of their anniversary, he blindfolded her in the car, refusing to tell her where they were going. When he removed the blindfold, Maya gasped. They were backstage at a concert venue, and standing in front of them was Crimson Atlas, the actual band. Surprise, Julian said, grinning at her shocked expression. How did you? Maya could not form complete sentences. The lead singer, Marcus Wright, stepped forward with a smile. Your husband reached out a few months ago. He told us your story, about how our music brought you together. We wanted to meet you. Maya spent the next hour talking with the band, telling them what their music meant to her, how it had been the soundtrack to her life. They were kind and genuine, clearly touched by her story. And then they invited Julian and Maya to watch the concert from the side of the stage. As they played Ember and Ash, the lead singer dedicated it to Maya and Julian. This one's for two people who prove that sometimes the best love stories start with a spontaneous moment and a favorite song. Maya cried through the entire performance, holding Julian's hand, overwhelmed by the thoughtfulness of his gift. He had taken the moment that started their story and made it even more special. "Thank you," she whispered when the song ended. "Anything for you," Julian said simply. Their children grew into teenagers, each carving their own path. Emma showed artistic talent like her mother, spending hours drawing and painting. James had his father's head for business, already talking about entrepreneurship. Julian and Maya supported them both, encouraging their passions while teaching them the value of hard work and perseverance. Sweet Maya's became a legacy, with Maya training young bakers and creating opportunities for others to pursue their culinary dreams. She established a scholarship fund for students interested in pastry arts, wanting to give back the way she had been given chances. Julian eventually stepped back from day-to-day operations at Sterling Manufacturing, focusing on philanthropy and spending time with his family. He and Maya traveled, revisiting Italy and exploring new places. They went to concerts, not just Crimson Atlas but discovering new artists together. Music remained a constant thread in their relationship, a reminder of where they had started. On their 20th anniversary, they threw a party for friends and family. The celebration was held at their home, the backyard decorated with string lights and flowers from Maya's garden. Emma and James had helped plan everything, wanting to celebrate their parents' love story. After dinner, Julian stood to give a toast. 20 years ago, I went to a concert alone, not expecting anything more than good music. Then a beautiful woman grabbed my arm and told me her favorite song was playing. In that moment, everything changed. Maya, you've given me a life beyond anything I could have dreamed. You've made me a better man, a proud father, and the luckiest husband in the world. Here's to 20 more years and all the adventures still to come. Maya stood, her eyes glistening. 20 years ago, I grabbed a stranger's arm because I couldn't contain my joy. That stranger became my best friend, my partner, my husband, the father of my children. Julian, you've supported every dream, celebrated every success, and stood by me through every challenge. You bought me a vinyl record when we barely knew each other because you wanted me to have something that mattered to me. That thoughtfulness, that care, has defined our entire relationship. I love you more today than I did 20 years ago, and I'll love you more tomorrow than I do today. They kissed while their guests cheered, Emma making exaggerated gagging noises while James filmed on his phone. It was perfect and chaotic and exactly what their life together had always been. Later that evening, after the guests had left and the kids were in bed, Julian and Maya sat in their music room. The vinyl he had given her 20 years ago sat on the turntable, the cover worn from years of love and use. "Ready?" Julian asked, his hand hovering over the play button. "Always," Maya said, settling into his arms. Ember and Ash filled the room, as beautiful as it had been the first time she heard it at that concert. Maya closed her eyes, letting the memories wash over her. The crowded venue, the electricity of live music, the spontaneous decision to grab a stranger's arm. Every choice that had led her here, to this room, this man, this life. "This is my favorite song," she whispered. "Mine too," Julian replied, just as he always had, just as he always would. They sat together in the music room they had built, in the house they had bought, surrounded by the life they had created. Two people who had met by chance and chosen each other every day since. A baker and a millionaire who had found something more valuable than any fortune. A love that grew stronger with each passing year. The song played on, their song, the beginning of their story and the soundtrack to their happily ever after. And as they held each other, swaying gently to the music, Maya thought about that girl at the concert who had been brave enough to grab a stranger's arm. She wanted to thank her for that courage, for that spontaneous moment of joy that had led to everything. But mostly, she just wanted to keep living this beautiful life, one day, one moment, one favorite song at a time. The vinyl crackled as the song ended and Julian stood to flip it over, but Maya caught his hand. "Again?" she asked, smiling. "Again," he agreed, resetting the needle. And Ember and Ash played once more, filling their home with the music that had brought them together and the love that would keep them together forever.